One of the things that he didn't mention, which is interesting, is that the Native Americans in North America have the same basic concept, and they call it Weedico. And they say that Weedico exists everywhere across in reality. And this is characterized best, I think, by Paul Levy in his book, Dispelling Weedico. And they say Weedico is a unique form of mind blindness that renders us blind to our blindness. That is, we don't realize we are blind, but fancy ourselves as clear seeing. Now that's a really important idea because what it essentially says that the environment that we live in is not reality. It is a contrived space, and we think it's a Truman Show kind of environment, a context, where we don't realize that what we think is reality is not reality. We're blind to it. We assume how we live is how we must live because we've just bought into all of the constraints and the characteristics of that. Now, this isn't, I don't want to drive you down into a hole here and get you all depressed because, but it's important that you understand this because I can tell you that for most of my life I went through it presuming that all of this reality was what it was and that you kind of had to do the best within the context of what you saw and what you understood. I mean, that's what they taught me in school, right? Did you get that? That's what they taught me in school. And you know, and that's what everybody said, the way it worked, and I just presumed that was the way it worked. And by the way, in church they talked about there were demons and things, but who knew? You know, the devil was trying to get you to do bad things, right? But this is a part of the whole fabric of this. I had an Islamic woman work for me once, really bright, 3 master's degrees from MIT. And she explained to me one day that there's a whole book in the Quran just about jinn. And says they're here and we got to deal with them and so on. And there's all kinds of stories about this. This is really an integral part of what is a part of the activity and the process of this transition. That's why this is important. These Weedicos, they have established themselves, he describes the Weedico beliefs, established themselves at a deep level of the human psyche where they could drink the energies that human beings draw from the wellspring of vitality. They literally feed off of the fear and the terror and the pain and all of these kind of negative kind of aspects of how we live on this planet. The main channel through which the vampires work is consciousness, and more specifically, our lack of consciousness. And so there's a congruency, again, between how the Native Americans thought about this and the larger picture of how this all works. And the interesting thing and the important thing here relative to how you engage going forward is that if you get yourself, you become, when you own your own reality, when you divorce yourself from the contrived, larger kind of space that they're trying to convince you of, when you own your own reality, you become a magnet, and your magnet is not the same resonance and vibration as this larger game. And it is not attracted to the game or the machine. And more importantly, and this is the kind of the key point, the machine doesn't care about you because you're not lunch anymore, right? You're not the energy that they feed off of. And so the ultimate kind of defense as you go forward into all this space is to work yourself into the place where you are not generating any of those kind of energetic signatures that these guys are looking for. And that's really good news because that's the best way to live, by the way. If you're happy and very joyful and you have love and all those kinds of things, you can't live any better than that, and nobody's going to hassle you, right? Now, there's another kind of element in this space, and it's called the Reptilians. And the reptilians are a group that have been around for a very, very long time. And they say that they were an integral part of Samaria and Egypt, and in fact that some of the major kind of Egyptian entities and gods were in fact reptilians. And they infiltrated and targeted key groups and individuals, and they've had amazing, extraordinary capabilities, shape-shifting and influence thoughts and things. And they have been planning for these days and these years for a long time. Now, the intriguing thing to me about this is that the stuff I've been reading lately and the people I've been talking to suggest to me that, in fact, they're almost on this negative side of the equation, not the Arcturians or Pleiadians and the whole bunch of other guys that are trying to help us, but on the other side, they're only maybe kind of reptilians, and that they, in fact, then manifest all these archons and jinn and all these kind of stuff, and that all of the negative kind of spiritual manifestation that's showing up is really just coming from the reptilians, and that's what they say, by the way, to friends of mine who talk to them. Just trust me, right? and so maybe there's just one kind of animating force or major kind of force behind all of this kind of negative side, and that they are the ones that then manufacture these varieties of these other kind of seemingly disparate entities that humanity has dealt with over the years. Well, if that's the case, then a very interesting thing may have just happened, and I don't have the time to spend a whole lot of time on it here. But I have corroborated from two different sources it's hard to say it's a fact, but the notion that the reptilians have had a change of heart about 3 weeks ago, as a matter of fact. And that they have, because I have a friend who's been working with them for 3.5 years and who has been actively trying to convince the leadership, which was just 3% of the, 50,000 or so that there are that are maybe on this planet in one way or another, that they really ought to kind of come over and be part of the solution rather than the problem. And let me just say that there are reasons to believe that might have been successful a couple of weeks ago. Now, if that is the case, it is of extraordinary importance because what they say that they've done is they've withdrawn all their support to the dark forces or the deep state or the whatever you want to call it, that are the operators that that run this planet from that point of view. And if in fact it's the case, then what you ought to start to see coming up here soon is fissures and fragmentation within the kind of the deep state structure, and that you don't have the coherence because they don't have their patrons anymore that are supplying all of the extraordinary kind of things that they're doing. And so we may be at this maybe amazing historic time where we're starting to see the end of this force that has dominated this planet for so long, which will then allow the emergence of this new world. But in any case, it's not going to happen right away. I mean, the effects there's a lot of latency in this system, and so the folks in the lower levels are going to hang on and try to do everything they can to keep the thing going because that's all they know how to do. But in any case, it's really vital for these vampiric-like entities to keep us in ignorance of their existence. That's why we're talking about this today. Because once you begin to wake up to the covert operations within your mind, then the gig is up, or the gig is up, as they would have no power over us. This guy wrote, once a race becomes aware of these vampires, the battle is already half won. So once you're aware that you have these dynamics in place, then you've got the basis in which to kind of respond to them. And otherwise, they sit there and play with you, and you don't even understand it.